At 35, I went through a cliff-like divorce. It wasn't entirely without warning. I'm a police officer, and Justin is a prosecutor, what others would call a perfect match. One late night, Justin turned off the lights, got into bed, and spoke slowly. I feel like my life right now is just stagnant, like dead water. After that, he switched careers and became a lawyer, taking on cases exclusively for wealthy clients. We changed houses, changed cars. On the day our son started primary school, he asked me for a divorce. Even though we do it once a week, it feels like a routine. Maybe you could try someone else too. So I did. Justin completely lost control, gripping my shoulders and shaking me hard. You're the law and he's a criminal. Can you wake up? With a swift counter move, I twisted his arm behind his back and restrained him. I've been drinking lukewarm water for too long. I want to try something strong for once. He's rich, good-looking, and young. What could he possibly want from me? Chapter 1. More than a month later, I went back home. The one who opened the door was a young girl. When we divorced, I didn't take the house. Marriage, pregnancy, childbirth, raising a child, the place had accumulated too many things. In such a short time, it was inevitable that some things would be left behind. Ma'am, I've packed the things you wanted. The girl looked delicate and pretty, her voice soft and sweet. Justin naturally picked up the suitcase, just like the dutiful husband he had been over the past 8 years. That is, if you ignored the love bites on his neck and the redness of the girl's knees. Clearly, before I arrived, the two of them had just finished an intense round. Ma'am, although this was bought by Justin, we don't need it. I thought you might still. The girl smiled as she pulled out a tube of lubricant from the pocket of her silk robe. Her little intentions were obvious to both a police officer and a lawyer. Justin's expression carried a hint of helplessness and indulgence. His lips moved slightly, but in the end, he said nothing. We were divorced, but it had been a peaceful separation, and we still shared a son. Because of the child, our paths would inevitably cross again, whether this young girlfriend wanted to show off affection or assert her place. It was understandable. I reached out and took the lubricant. It was paid for, no point wasting it. Justin's voice softened. Do you want to come in and check if anything else was left behind? No need. If there is, it's not important. Just throw it away. I'll walk you out. No need. Someone's waiting for me downstairs. A flicker of surprise crossed Justin's eyes, but with his girlfriend beside him, he didn't ask further. Goodbye. I turned and left. Tony said there's a parent-teacher meeting next week. Justin's voice suddenly came from behind me. Charlotte, if you're busy, I can go, he added. My schedule is pretty flexible. I didn't stop walking, nor did I turn back. Tony is staying with my mom. You can talk to her. Hearing that, Justin immediately left his girlfriend behind and hurried after me. Tony isn't living with you? I paused, slightly taken aback by his questioning. Yeah, my mom said she'd take care of Tony so I could settle things first. What I didn't say was, my mom also wanted me to find someone new as soon as possible. Chapter 2. The day I was informed of the divorce by Justin, my parents were calmer than I was. I knew he wasn't going to stay put the moment he switched careers. My mom said, clearly proud of her foresight. Exactly. That guy puts on too much of an act. I didn't like him the moment I saw him. My dad immediately echoed her. Who gets custody of Tony? Justin said I do. My mom let out a cold laugh. So he's planning to replace both wife and child. The child support is $15,000 a month. At that, my mom's expression visibly softened. Then leave Tony with me. I'll help you raise him. Just give me $8,000. Mom, Tony is my son. I objected. My mom was exasperated and smacked me on the back. Are you stupid? Before, he could still share the burden. Now you're raising the kid alone and still have to work. He gets to live freely, enjoying himself, while you juggle work and childcare. If one day he gets tired of playing around and comes back asking to remarry, by then the kid will be older and you'll have stayed loyal all this time. A reformed playboy is priceless? In his dreams. If he can date, so can you. You're still young, go fall in love. I found myself persuaded by my mother's logic. She had a point. If Justin ever came back asking to remarry, I might actually agree. As I get older, there are fewer and fewer men my age that I find acceptable. Chapter 3. Justin is Tony's biological father. He has outstanding looks and a prestigious career. He doesn't smoke or drink, is gentlemanly, generous, and considerate. As a police officer responsible for public security, I've responded to countless incidents. I've seen men indulge in drinking, gambling, visiting prostitutes, abusing their wives, and even running away leaving behind a mountain of debt. Compared to them, Justin really is a good man. He also has one greatest strength: honesty. Charlotte, the only constant in this world is change itself. The vow I made at our wedding, to spend my life with you, was sincere. But it's also true that I've developed feelings for someone else now. I don't want to deceive or betray you. So let's divorce. If you leave Tony with your mother, I'll consider applying for a change in custody. After learning that my mother was helping me take care of Tony, Justin frowned deeply, his displeasure undisguised. Sure, I replied without hesitation. Justin froze. At that moment, his young girlfriend walked over and affectionately wrapped her arm around his. Ma'am, the child is still so young. It's better for him to stay with his mother, isn't it? I noticed the girl's tension and smiled knowingly. I'm not abandoning him. The place I just rented is in the same neighborhood as my mom's. Anything else? Justin's lips pressed into a tight line, while the girl clung tightly to his arm. Justin, it's a bit cold outside. Let's go back in. When he didn't respond, she pouted playfully. I'm hungry. Will you cook some noodles for me? Pulling my suitcase behind me, I left their conversation behind, walking farther and farther away. Chapter 4. I walked out of the residential complex, and the door of a black Land Rover parked by the roadside swung open. Bernard stepped out of the car and took my suitcase. I got in, but he didn't start the engine for a long time. Seatbelt. Only after his reminder did I realize it, fumbling around to my side, but I couldn't find it. So when Bernard leaned over, I thought he was going to help me fasten it. Caught off guard, his soft, warm lips brushed against mine. Just a fleeting touch. My apologies. Though he said it like an apology, there wasn't the slightest hint of guilt in his eyes. Instead, he curled his lips into a faint smile. If I didn't do that, I really wouldn't know how to pull Officer Charlotte's attention away from her ex-husband and onto me. I responded with silence. The next second, I grabbed his collar and kissed him hard. That's right, out with the old, in with the new. More than a month ago, Justin asked for a divorce. It caught me completely off guard. Suddenly, I felt like I couldn't breathe, my chest tight and suffocating. What if I don't want a divorce? Justin had clearly prepared for all my reactions. His expression remained calm. Then I can only go from emotional drifting to outright cheating. Charlotte, you should know better than anyone, cheating isn't illegal. With that one sentence, the end of our marriage was set in stone. 8 years of marriage. As a husband and as a father, Justin had been more than competent. I couldn't accept that he would so easily abandon me, cast aside everything we had. But reality hit hard. When I returned to what used to be our home, the house I had personally decorated had already changed beyond recognition. His new girlfriend couldn't wait to erase every trace that I and our child had ever existed. The curtains, the carpets, all the furniture, even the entire interior design had been replaced. Chapter 5. We just met on a blind date. Isn't this moving a little too fast? My personal information was already checked by Officer Charlotte last week. Bernard smiled faintly and leaned closer again. As for not being familiar, spend more time together. And we will be. I didn't like this kind of sudden move. I tried to push him away, but my hand was pinned down. The young man's masculine presence overwhelmed me. It invaded my lungs along with my breath, dominant, intense, an unfamiliar scent, a fresh sensation. And yet, my body didn't resist. People are visual creatures. Bernard was objectively handsome. Thick brows, a high nose bridge, sharply defined features, nearly 1.9 meters tall, the kind of looks that women from 8 to 80 would all agree on. The very day Justin brought up divorce, I packed my things and went back to my mother's home. A few days later, my mom excitedly told me that the hot pot restaurant downstairs had a new owner. His golden retriever had gone missing, and all the women in the neighborhood helped search for it. Just yesterday, my mom proudly declared, she had beaten out countless aunties to secure this blind date opportunity for me. At dinner time, Bernard showed up at our door carrying a bottle of Mao Tai and a box of Longjing tea. When I saw him, I was stunned. Last week, a man had been following a high school girl after evening self-study. The girl was so frightened her face turned pale. I chased after her and ran into two men fighting. Coincidentally, both were dressed in black jackets and jeans. It was dark, and the girl couldn't tell which one had been following her. I brought both men back to the station for questioning. When I pulled up Bernard's records, I saw that at 14, he had a history of fighting and had even been sent to juvenile detention. After that, he seemed to have turned over a new leaf. His record was clean, but the other man had an extensive criminal record: voyeurism, stalking, molesting minors. In addition, my colleague checked the surveillance footage and confirmed that Bernard had just come out of a convenience store. Hearing the girl's cries, he rushed over to help. By the time the work was done, it was already midnight. Bernard walked over to my side. "Officer Charlotte, it's on the way. I'll give you a ride." Chapter 6. It was the weekend. I was having breakfast at my parents' house, and my father had taken Tony out to play. Knowing that I was going to meet Justin, my mother called Bernard. "Have Bernard go with you. Justin found himself a younger one, you can't lose out either." I sighed helplessly, trying to get my mother to face reality. "He's just being polite to you. How could he possibly be interested in a middle-aged woman with a child like me? It doesn't hurt to ask. Maybe he just likes mature women." With just one phone call, she actually got Bernard to come. "I'm 10 years older than you. Are you sure you want to develop this into a romantic relationship?" I asked calmly. Physical attraction is simple and direct. It breaks through distance effortlessly. The long still lake in my heart had indeed begun to ripple. But I'm not an innocent girl anymore. My profession makes me suspicious by nature. I'm a law-abiding citizen. I was ignorant when I was young and went down the wrong path. But I've long since turned over a new leaf. Officer Charlotte, you're my type. Besides, I'm not asking you to marry me. Why not just give it a try? Bernard's gaze burned with intensity. His confession, however, made me frown. You don't have any kind of illness, do you? He smiled lightly. We can go to the hospital right now. I'll do a full physical exam, including infectious disease screening. That's not urgent. Take me home first. I turned my gaze out the window and said flatly, "Still in a bad mood?" Before I could respond, Bernard started the car and continued. "Do you like beef tripe or duck intestines?" "Tripe," I answered instinctively. "Beef or lamb?" "Beef." "All right, I'll treat you to hot pot. There's nothing a hot pot meal can't fix, if one isn't enough." Then too, his easygoing attitude seemed to disperse some of the gloom lodged in my chest. "Only 2 meals? If Officer Charlotte agrees to be my girlfriend, you can eat as many meals as you want." "Oh, then how about you give me the restaurant?" "No problem." He agreed too quickly, and I frowned at him. "Really? Want to go print out a property transfer agreement right now?" My frown deepened. I looked him up and down like I was interrogating a suspect. "You're not secretly in massive debt, are you? Want to see my credit report and bank balance?" Bernard hit the brakes and pulled over to the side. I immediately agreed. "All right, show me." 5 minutes later. "Fine, we'll give it a try. But let's be clear, this is just a trial. Without my permission, you're not allowed to make any intimate moves. And what if Officer Charlotte makes intimate moves toward me? Am I allowed to resist?" I answered firmly. "No." Chapter 7. The fastest way to forget a relationship is to start a new one. I took my mother's words to heart. I've already experienced marriage, and I have a child. No emotional pain now could compare to the psychological blow Justin dealt me. When I started dating Bernard, my parents were even more enthusiastic than I was. They invited him to lunch and dinner, and after meals, they pushed us out to go on dates, newly released movies, performances, events around town. In just 1 month, I went on more dates with Bernard than I had with Justin alone in 8 years of marriage. "I want to take Tony to the amusement park. Is that okay?" During breakfast one weekend, Bernard took the initiative to suggest it. My parents and I were all stunned. Tony blinked his grape-like eyes and pleaded in a soft, childish voice. Mommy, I want to go. Let Uncle take me, please. Of course. Of course. My mother was the first to snap out of it. Beaming with joy, my father immediately nodded in agreement. You three go to the amusement park. We'll go to the market and prepare a big meal for when you come back. Tony jumped off his chair, waving his arms in excitement. That's great! We're going to the amusement park. The amusement park. Bernard scooped the little guy up and spun him around in the air. Let's take Tony to ride airplanes. Tony burst into even louder giggles. And I want ice cream. All right. We'll buy Tony some ice cream. The warm scene in front of me made me feel dazed for a moment. Justin was someone who cared a lot about cost effectiveness. He believed play had little value. So on weekends, he would send Tony to learn English, violin, taekwondo, his schedule packed to the brim. But I believed a child's childhood shouldn't be filled with all that so early. In fact, we had differences not only in life perspectives but also in parenting philosophies. Still, I thought we could communicate and eventually find solutions. I never expected that he would grow tired of the relationship first. He chose to get rid of me. Chapter 8. Although Tony couldn't go on many of the rides, kids are happy just being at an amusement park. We played until the sun began to set. Not long after getting into the car, Tony fell asleep. When we arrived home, he was still out cold. Don't wake him. He's exhausted today. Bernard carefully lifted Tony out of the car. He let Tony sleep draped over his shoulder, one arm supporting the boy's bottom, while freeing his other hand to hold mine. Let's go home. My parents said they made your favorite, braised prawns. I couldn't help but complain. Braised prawns are the only thing I like. Everything else is your favorite. Bernard's eyes curved with amusement. Well, of course, they treat me like their own son, so naturally I'll treat their daughter even better. Dusk deepened, and the last trace of crimson lingered along the horizon. A gentle breeze brushed against my face. I looked up at Bernard. Something in my heart was quietly stirred. I grabbed his collar and slowly rose onto my tiptoes. Just as I was about to kiss him, Justin's voice came from behind, shocked and angry. Charlotte! I was about to turn around when a warm, moist breath brushed against my face. A kiss landed softly on my lips. Bernard's lips curved slightly. I pressed my lips together. This guy. Justin strode over to us. Before he could speak, I raised a finger to my lips. Shoo, Tony's asleep. Keep your voice down. Standing about 7 or 8 meters apart, Bernard held the child downstairs, while Justin and I spoke off to the side. Isn't visitation tomorrow? Why are you here now? I asked coldly. Justin stayed silent, but the uneven rhythm of his breathing revealed his inner turmoil. I had something come up last week, so I couldn't make it. I want to take Tony tonight instead. He was still in the honeymoon phase with his new girlfriend, so I had already expected that he wouldn't bother playing the role of a devoted father. And Bernard not only filled that gap, but also left me no time to feel sad. I called you, but your phone was off. Yeah, it ran out of battery. Justin held back again and again, but finally blurted out. Charlotte, don't you think you're moving too fast? After years of marriage, I instantly understood what he meant. He had someone lined up before asking for the divorce. Yeah, when the feeling's there, you go for it. I didn't want to discuss my relationship with my ex-husband. I wanted to end this conversation. My parents already prepared dinner. Tony's exhausted from playing all day. Come back tomorrow. After saying that, I turned and walked toward Bernard. Chapter 9. We stepped into the elevator, but unexpectedly, Justin followed in as well. Since I'm already here, I might as well visit my former in-laws. Justin, we're already divorced. I don't think my parents want to see you. I hate awkward situations, and I could already foresee how uncomfortable things were about to get. Mommy, Tony rubbed his eyes and mumbled sleepily. I hadn't controlled my volume just now and ended up waking him. Tony noticed Justin. Daddy? Yeah, Tony, good boy. Without another word, Justin took Tony into his arms. When we entered the house, my parents' smiling faces immediately fell the moment they saw Justin. But they were still polite people, and Justin had been fairly generous in the divorce settlement. Have you eaten, Justin? Why don't you join us? My father spoke up first. Because of Justin's presence, the atmosphere in the house became stiff. Even Tony stopped being picky and quietly focused on eating. After not seeing each other for many days, father and son felt a bit unfamiliar with each other. Tony was still young and innocent. He didn't understand what divorce really meant, only that his parents had separated. Although he wasn't used to it. Children are simple, with good food and fun distractions. He could easily be comforted. And with my parents' cheerful personalities, Tony had actually become even more lively than before. After dinner, Justin wanted to take Tony with him. Visitation was his right as a father, so I didn't stop him. With Tony gone, the house immediately felt quiet and empty. My mother nudged me. Don't stay cooped up at home. Go out with Bernard. We're old, we go to bed early. You young people can take a walk by the river or sit at a bar. Bernard and I followed her suggestion. We took a walk by the riverside, then went to a nearby bar and sat down. After a few drinks, it suddenly hit me. You can't drive after drinking. Why did you drink too? My girlfriend's in a bad mood. Of course I should drink with you. We can just call a designated driver later. Bernard poured me another glass of whiskey. I stared at him. You're not trying to get me drunk and take advantage of me, are you? Bernard smiled and leaned closer to my ear. Charlotte, I'm 25 this year. If he hadn't reminded me, I actually hadn't felt much of our age gap while spending time together. Maybe it was because Bernard was more composed than others his age. Or maybe it was because I was still a bit immature inside. In the past, whenever I had disagreements with Justin, I would inevitably get emotional, and he would frown and lecture me. Charlotte, you're already a mother. Can you be more mature? Think things through more thoroughly. Justin used to be a prosecutor and was now a lawyer. I could never win an argument against him. Eventually, I let myself be convinced. Suppressing that girlish side of me, I forced myself to stay calm and rational, to weigh pros and cons, but I also became dull. Looking back now, that marriage felt quite suffocating. Justin called me immature, yet he fell for someone who was truly immature. Thinking about it now, it's ironic. In the end, men really do think with their lower bodies. Justin was no exception. Chapter 10. Cutie. Have you ever heard the saying? Once a man passes 25, he's basically 60. His deep, magnetic voice pulled me back from the overwhelming frustration Justin had left me with. I turned my head and met Bernard's outrageously handsome face. So why not take advantage of my youth and give it a try? Cutie? Those few words made half my body go numb. He had never called me cutie before. Usually, he teased me by calling me Officer Charlotte. In front of my parents, he addressed me properly as Charlotte. Sometimes he even joked and followed Tony in calling me Mom. This guy was such a contradiction. He had both the maturity and steadiness to handle situations, and a carefree, romantic attitude toward life. Damn it, he was charming. Slightly tipsy. My head grew warm. The more I looked at Bernard, the more appealing he seemed. His hand rested on my shoulder. Come to my place? I shook my head like a rattle drum. Even in my dazed state, I stayed alert. What if you've installed cameras at home? Then one day my colleagues from Vice see a video online titled something like XX Police Beauty. Sure, my figure's great, but that would be way too embarrassing. All right then, where do you want to go? My place. I grabbed his collar and tried to pull him up, but once Bernard stood, I couldn't reach anymore. He cooperatively bent down, lowered his head, and placed his collar back into my hand. Cutie, take me home. With that attitude, I suddenly felt like I had hired a male model for the night. Chapter 11. I pulled open the drawer and took out a tube of lubricant. Didn't expect I'd be using it so soon. Bernard looked at it. What? Don't know how to use it? I don't think we'll need it. With a faint smile, he tossed it aside, placed both hands on my waist, and leaned in to kiss me. His hands moved slowly downward. His kisses followed, gradually trailing lower. In the end, that tube of lubricant slipped off the bed and fell to the floor. Just as he said, it really wasn't needed. Lying flat on the bed, my heart felt like it was floating on clouds. An unreal sense of happiness. Bernard, did I save your life or something? Details reveal sincerity. Even the most skilled suspect can't perfectly control every movement. expression, and behavior. And a man in bed, his attitude can be read through his actions. I couldn't help but wonder if I had saved his life, because the way Bernard treated me was like a devout believer worshipping something sacred, passionate, yet restrained. Every second, he cared about how I felt. No, I'm sure I've never met you before. My memory might not be perfect, but someone as striking as Bernard, I would have remembered. He didn't answer. I turned my head to look at him. Bernard braced himself with his arms on either side of me. I fell in love with you at first sight. He said it jokingly, but in his eyes, it felt like there was a surging tide, waves crashing, shifting, rising, and then, restrained, suppressed, returning to calm. Chapter 12. After my shower, Bernard picked up a hairdryer and began drying my hair. The soft humming of white noise made me drowsy. Suddenly, a sharp ringtone cut through the air. My heart skipped a beat. A bad feeling crept in. Justin's voice was tight. Charlotte, stay calm and listen to me. We're at the hospital right now. Tony accidentally hit his head on the coffee table. When I didn't respond, Justin's words abruptly stopped. Go on. My tone was icy. Justin hesitated, then said in a low voice, Tony is in the operating room right now. We don't know how serious it is yet. My cold fingertips were suddenly wrapped in a warm hand. Bernard took the phone from me. Got it. We'll be there right away. He pulled me into his arms, and only then did I realize I was trembling. Go change your clothes. We'll head there as fast as possible. I steadied myself. Okay. Bernard drove me to the hospital at top speed. Justin and his girlfriend were sitting side by side outside the operating room, hearing our footsteps. They both stood up at the same time. His young girlfriend shrank behind him like a frightened quail. Justin, on the other hand, instinctively stepped in front of her. Their body language had already told me. Tony's injury had everything to do with that girlfriend of his. Charlotte. This was really an accident. Isabella doesn't have experience taking care of children. It's my fault for not explaining things clearly. When people feel guilty, even someone as eloquent as Justin becomes at a loss for words. Smack! A sharp sound echoed. Justin's face was struck to the side by my slap. Of course it's your fault. I put all my strength into that slap. His face quickly flushed red. Shock filled his eyes, and his girlfriend cried out. Hey, you shrew. How can you hit someone? If anything happens to Tony, I will kill both of you. I stared at the shocking patch of blood on Justin's coat. A chill spread through my body, and I couldn't stop trembling. Bernard pulled me tightly into his arms, his hand pressing gently against my head. Let's wait for the doctor to come out first. Don't let yourself fall apart from anger. Chapter 13. The doctor said Tony's head had been cut by a sharp object. Fortunately, it hadn't injured his skull. The wound had been stitched, but he still hadn't woken up. A concussion caused by the impact couldn't be ruled out, so he needed to stay in the hospital for observation. Justin visibly let out a sigh of relief. He walked up to me and explained in a gentle tone. At the time, Tony was climbing onto the sofa wearing slippers. Isabella tried to get him to take them off, and in a moment of panic, she tugged at him. She didn't expect him to fall and hit his head on the coffee table. Charlotte, this really was an accident. You know kids are bound to get bumps and bruises. Isabella feels very guilty too. I took a deep breath. You call this an accident? The coffee table we used to have was a round wooden one. I had padded every sharp edge of the furniture with protective strips. I remembered the coffee table Justin mentioned. It was a rhino-shaped glass table, avant-garde and bold in design, far more artistic than practical. You say she doesn't understand, but as his father, didn't you consider that furniture like that could be dangerous for a child? Or did you weigh it in your mind and decide that pleasing your new girlfriend was more important than your son's safety? Justin fell silent for a long moment before speaking with difficulty. I'm sorry. This time, it was my mistake. Get out! I don't want to see you right now. All right, if you need anything, call me. Bernard, who had been silent all this time, finally spoke. Don't worry, as long as I'm here, I'll take care of both Charlotte and Tony. Yeah, it's been a long day. You must be tired. Let's go home. You can come back after you've calmed down. The girl tugged at Justin's sleeve. Don't you owe me an apology too? I shot her a sharp look. The girl glanced at Justin timidly, her eyes pleading. Justin, I. Justin's expression turned cold. The girl bit her lip, seeing everyone watching her. She finally spoke. I didn't do it on purpose. She defended herself weakly. Isabella, do I need to teach you how to apologize when you've done something wrong? Justin said impatiently. The girl stomped her foot angrily and turned to run off. Justin, I hate you. After running a few meters, she turned back and realized Justin hadn't moved. He had no intention of chasing after her. Reluctantly, she walked back. I'm sorry. She choked out the apology and threw her arms around Justin's waist. Justin, I know I was wrong. Justin sighed. Placing a hand on her head, the girl buried her face in his chest and began to sob softly. Excuse me, if you two want to show affection, could you do it somewhere else? Bernard said calmly. Justin looked at Bernard and suddenly questioned him. Why are you two together this late? Chapter 14. 3 days later. Justin came to see me. Charlotte, take a look at this. He handed me a file with a serious expression. The first page I opened showed Bernard's life history. He was sent to juvenile detention at 14. Yeah, I know. Justin glanced at me in surprise, then flipped to another page. This person, he was Bernard's close friend back in juvenile detention. Do you remember him? I stared at the man in the photo. Though he looked much younger, his facial features hadn't changed much. You arrested him and sent him to prison. In the end, he was sentenced to death. I didn't know that part, but what exactly are you trying to say? Justin's face turned grave. Charlotte, Bernard approached you with ulterior motives. Seeing my calm reaction, he added, if he associates with that kind of scum, what good could he possibly be? I also found out he used to run a modified car shop. After you moved, he bought that hot pot restaurant. He suddenly gave up a highly profitable business to do exhausting work in the food industry. And in his previous line of work, it's impossible he didn't have dealings with criminal organizations. I closed the file. I understand. I'll ask him about it. Justin grabbed my shoulders, his gaze sharp. Charlotte, break up with him, right now. I narrowed my eyes. Justin, in what capacity are you ordering me? Justin froze for a moment, then spoke in a firm tone. I don't want someone this dangerous around my child. I shot back. The one who hurt Tony was your girlfriend, and your logic doesn't hold. If he wanted revenge on me, why not go after the judge who sentenced that man to death? And if it's revenge, isn't dating me a bit too roundabout? Deceiving my feelings wouldn't be as effective as directly hurting me, would it? If he really had close ties with criminal organizations, he wouldn't even need to do it himself. I appreciate the effort you put into gathering all this information and making your assumptions. But as police, when we handle cases, no matter who the subject is, they are only suspects. Justin was left speechless. Seeing that I was about to leave, he tightened his grip on my shoulders. Let go! I frowned and snapped. His expression turned cold. He grabbed my shoulders and shook me forcefully, saying righteously, Charlotte, you're on the side of the law. And he's a criminal. Wake up! With a swift move, I twisted his arm behind his back in a hold. I've been drinking warm water for too long. I want to try something stronger. He's rich, handsome, and young. What could he possibly want from me? After saying that, I kicked the back of his knee. Justin fell face first to the ground. Watching his disheveled state, I smiled faintly. You made the first move. That was self-defense. Justin propped himself up with one hand and slowly got to his feet. Charlotte, let's get remarried. That sentence was just as abrupt as when he had asked me for a divorce. I stared at Justin and thought for a moment. Sure, break up with her first. Justin locked his gaze onto my eyes, just like he did when judging whether a client was telling the truth. Chapter 15. Right in front of me, Justin called his current girlfriend. He turned on speakerphone. Isabella, let's break up. I want to remarry my ex-wife. I was only driven by desire with you. The one I love is my wife. On the other end, the girl went from furious shouting, to breaking down in tears, to desperate pleading. Justin, don't break up with me, okay? Please don't. I'll do anything you want. When there was only silence on this side, she cried so hard she began to hiccup. I can be, the other woman, secretly. I won't let your wife find out. Justin, I really love you. Justin, don't stay silent. I can give you money, okay? My dad has a lot of money. Her sincerity surprised me. I had thought she was after Justin's money, but it turned out to be genuine love. Isabella, it's over, Justin said coldly. All I want is to win my wife back. You were passionate and proactive. You did tempt me for a while. But how can anyone eat candy and cake every day without getting sick of something that sweet? Then, as if offering earnest advice, he delivered words that cut deep. If you get a boyfriend in the future, remember, have some self-respect. Don't lower yourself like this. It'll only make the other person look down on you more. After hanging up, Justin looked at me, as if everything was obvious. Feel better now? I thought back to the girl's broken sobs. SOSO. Justin grabbed my wrist. I've broken up. Now it's your turn. I replied casually. Oh, I was just messing with you. If you don't want to get hit again, let go. Chapter 16. I pushed open the door of the hot pot restaurant. Several young waiters looked at me as if they were seeing their future boss's wife. Their gazes carried a mix of ambiguity and flattery. I finally understood the source of the strange feeling about them. All the waiters in the restaurant were men, each one tall and well-built, physically strong. So, they used to be mechanics at a modification shop? It wasn't business hours, so there were no customers inside. Bernard's business partner, a flat-headed man, came up to greet me. Charlotte, Bernard is in the kitchen. He wasn't wearing a uniform, just a black tank top, revealing two heavily tattooed arms. Noticing me staring at his tattoos, he smiled awkwardly. I was young and foolish, thought it looked cool. It does look pretty good. As I walked toward the kitchen, I had originally planned to throw the file straight at Bernard, but the moment I stepped inside, I saw him wearing a black apron, washing dishes, both sexy and strangely domestic. I immediately changed my mind, stuffed the file back into my bag, and wrapped my arms around his waist from behind. Bernard turned his head to look at me. Our eyes met. Connection established. He kissed me lightly on the lips. It felt like a current ran through me. Bernard took off his rubber gloves, untied his apron, turned around, lifted me up, and kissed me. Hey, someone might see. My cheeks grew warm. His nose brushed lightly against mine. They know you're here. They won't come in. Just as he finished speaking, the tattooed man rushed in, sounding anxious. Bernard. Luna. Sorry for interrupting. He quickly turned his head away. You go handle your business first. Bernard gave me a quick kiss on the lips. All right, I'll come find you when I'm done. He hurried out of the restaurant with the tattooed man. My heart suddenly sank. Luna was obviously a girl, and she mattered to him. It wasn't until 10 p.m., just as I was about to go to bed, that Bernard finally showed up. Who is Luna? What's your relationship? I got straight to the point. She's my sister. Luna is my biological sister. My dear Officer Charlotte. I didn't believe him. Why have you never mentioned her before? Bernard sighed helplessly and pulled up a photo on his phone. This is why. I looked at the girl in the photo. The more I looked, the more familiar she seemed. Originally, I worked in criminal investigations. Many years ago, there was a vicious incident where a criminal randomly attacked pedestrians on the street. A girl had her neck slashed, bleeding profusely. She was even taken hostage by the attacker, leading to a standoff. The situation was critical. To lower the attacker's guard, my superior arranged for me to approach in plain clothes and deliver water. When he reached out to take it, I decisively drew my gun and fired. I shot 3 times, hitting his knife-wielding arm and both legs. The attacker was subdued, and the girl was rushed to the hospital. So I saved your sister, and you came to repay the favor? No wonder Bernard sometimes felt like a perfectly tailored romance scam setup. Bernard shook his head helplessly. I was afraid you'd think that, so I hid Luna's existence. He asked me in return, if someone saved your family member, would you repay them by devoting yourself to them? I didn't hesitate. Of course not. Though, not absolutely. If they happen to be my type, then the favor would definitely be a bonus. Ever since I can remember, my parents didn't get along. They didn't care about me, and I had no sense of presence at home. so I looked for belonging elsewhere. When I was young and ignorant, I thought being tough and fighting made me look cool. During a group fight, I injured someone and ended up in juvenile detention. After that, I kept drifting through life aimlessly until the day Mia got into trouble. When I received the news and rushed over, I was stopped outside the police line. I could only watch from afar as my sister was in danger. Back then I thought I was strong, but in that moment, I could do nothing. Lost in memory, Bernard spoke with emotion. You have no idea how dazzling you were at that time. It was also that moment I realized being in gangs wasn't cool, protecting people and upholding justice was. I even thought about becoming a police officer. But with a record, it wasn't possible. However, a friend of mine became a cop. So over the years, I've been quietly keeping track of you. Bernard mentioned a name. It was a baby-faced officer who handled administrative work. No wonder that guy was always so enthusiastic whenever he saw me, bringing me snacks, chatting with me. I had thought he had a crush on me. Turns out, someone else did. Speaking of friends, do you know this person? I handed him the file. Bernard looked at the man Justin claimed was his close brother who had been sentenced to death. He frowned, thinking carefully. I don't know him. No impression. Justin said he entered juvenile detention at the same time as you. I arrested him. He was sentenced to death. Bernard suddenly understood, his expression turning grim. Impressive, he really went out of his way to fabricate a connection like that for me. Chapter 17. That weekend, Justin came to pick up Tony. I've replaced all the furniture at home. Do you want to come check it out? All right, I'll take a look. Fortunately, Tony's wound had been stitched properly, and there was no concussion. He was discharged from the hospital the next day. By law, Justin had visitation rights, so I couldn't stop him from seeing his son just because of one accident. Returning to that house again, it had almost been restored to how it looked before I left. Warm and cozy, with a natural wood aesthetic. All the furniture edges were covered with protective padding. In addition, a thick wool carpet had been laid across the living room floor, with many new toys placed on top. Dad, are these for me? Tony's eyes lit up at the sight of the toys, but without Justin's permission, he didn't dare touch them. Justin patted Tony's head, his gaze gentle, his tone soft. They're all for you. Tony, go ahead and play. Tony focused intently on his new toys. Justin signaled for me to go into the study to talk. Charlotte, I really want to remarry you. Seeing that I didn't respond, he continued, trying to persuade me step by step. We've been together for so many years, we know each other inside out. This kind of bond, built over time, isn't something others can easily replace. I know what happened before hurt you, but that wasn't my intention, and I've already tried something else. It wasn't anything special. If you don't trust me, you can set any conditions you want. A complete family structure is beneficial for Tony's physical and mental well-being. As he grows up, he also needs enough companionship from his father. And besides me, his biological father, no other man will truly treat a child who isn't his own with genuine care. I met Justin's confident gaze. His words were indeed persuasive. But, Justin, do you know something? We dated for 2 years and were married for 8. I used to think that even if our relationship had grown dull, 10 years together would still mean something rooted deep enough to be inseparable. But you cut it off in one swift stroke. At that time, watching myself bleed from that wound, I truly thought the pain would kill me. But after stepping out of the marriage and re-examining it, I suddenly realized my life is actually better without you. You think being cold and heartless to that girl would make me feel vindicated. But instead, it only made me see your selfishness more clearly. You say Tony needs a father, but to you, he's just a tool to boost your sense of superiority. After I became your wife, you stopped putting effort into me. You said our married life felt like a routine, but that's because you didn't even bother with basic foreplay anymore. You treat everyone with calculation. When you need them, you pick them up. When you don't, you discard them. Justin, you think work is boring. Marriage is boring. Have you ever considered that maybe you're the boring one? Being with you made me boring too. So there's no way I would ever remarry you. After saying that, I turned to leave, but Justin sneered coldly. I'm boring? And your little boyfriend isn't? Don't forget your age, he's just after something new. Believe it or not. He'll soon think you're too old. I turned back, not hurt by his words at all, and asked with a smile, "What's wrong? Did that hit a nerve?" Chapter 18. Half a year later. I said yes to Bernard's proposal. The connection between people is truly something mysterious. 10 years together couldn't compare to the harmony of just 6 months with him. Bernard really felt like someone fate had sent into my life to join our family. He gained a pair of loving parents, and my parents gained a son. I once asked my mom out of curiosity, "Why were you so sure from the start that Bernard was a good person?" My mom answered with absolute confidence, "Your mother is on the neighborhood committee. I can tell from his face he's a blessed kid. He brings you good fortune. Just look at how much better your complexion is now." I was speechless. What a looks-obsessed society. Seeing through my thoughts, my mom let out a snort. "Oh, and you don't judge by looks? When I told you to go on that blind date, you had a face like a corpse. The moment you saw Bernard, you came back to life." I hugged her arm and acted spoiled. Well, that just proves we're mother and daughter. On the day of the wedding, Tony was the flower boy, and Bernard's sister was the bridesmaid. I later learned from Bernard that Mia was studying abroad, and that tattooed man was her boyfriend. Back then, one had bleached hair, and the other was a rebellious girl. They had been together for many years. Later, Bernard helped the blonde guy turn his life around. That day, it was because Mia had lost contact that the tattooed man panicked. Bernard used his connections to find her. Fortunately, it was a false alarm. The moment Mia saw me, she rushed over and hugged me warmly. "I never imagined you'd become my sister-in-law. This is amazing." The young girl hugged me tightly, then turned to Bernard and snapped fiercely, "Brother, if you ever treat her badly, I'll cut you down with a knife." Bernard smiled in response. "Don't worry, I can't beat your police officer sister-in-law anyway." Chapter 19. My ex-husband showed up uninvited, but considering the generous wedding gift Justin brought, I arranged a seat for him in a corner. Even though he appeared calm, the pressure around him felt heavy and cold. Even dressed in a sharp suit, he carried an unsettling gloom. As my mom would put it, he just looked unlucky. I heard that the past 6 months hadn't been easy for Justin. His young girlfriend's father, trying to vent his daughter's anger, had used every means to go after him. He even set him up, and Justin almost got framed and sent to prison. In the end, he exhausted every effort to prove his innocence. After going through so many setbacks in such a short time, his spirit had been worn down. He looked noticeably older. During the banquet, he drank quite a bit. His handsome face flushed red. Even after the wedding ended and the guests had all left, Justin still didn't go. "Charlotte, I admit, when I asked for a divorce, I thought you wouldn't agree." Justin smiled bitterly. "I thought that as long as I turned back, you would definitely agree to remarry me. Familiarity breeds neglect. I forgot that you've always been outstanding. You can rest assured, even though my career isn't going well right now, I'll continue to pay Tony's support on time. And if in the future you..." Before he could finish, Bernard cut him off, placing an arm around my shoulder. "Thanks for attending the wedding. Do you need me to call a ride for you?" Justin slowly stood up. "Charlotte, I don't want to wish you happiness. I'll wait for the day you die." Before he could finish, Bernard threw a punch. Bang! Justin was knocked to the ground. Bernard, still not satisfied, grabbed his collar and punched him again and again. I stood nearby, watching coldly. He had just attended my wedding and was already wishing for my divorce. Once again, I had to agree with my mom. Justin really was bad luck. Fortunately, Bernard had some restraint and stopped before things got worse. I walked up to Justin and asked politely, "Do you need me to call the police? My colleagues haven't gone far. They could come back and take an extra shift." I smiled faintly. "Though, the one losing face would be you. Attorney Justin." "No." Justin struggled to his feet and staggered away. His back looked lonely and defeated. A low voice sounded beside my ear. "Feeling sorry for him?" Before I could answer, my body suddenly lifted off the ground. Bernard's demeanor shifted completely. He scooped me up in his arms, speaking in a playful, dramatic tone. "My lady is so charming, why not come back to my stronghold and become my bandit queen?" I grabbed his ear and scolded him. Where did you learn to talk like that? His lips moved close, his voice deep and rich, like strong liquor, sending a tingling sensation through my ear. Officer Charlotte, tonight is our wedding night. Why don't you cuff me and interrogate me properly?